All right. Well, now we're just gonna like ease it. We're just jumping into the pool together. We were already talking, and Laura, I am obsessed with this book, with you, with your writing, with your truth telling. Hello, Tough Titties is fucking
Titties.
awesome, girl.
Thank you. This makes me so happy.
I I just, I think for those, I'm assuming, I know I've had you here before and people like just flock to you. I think one of the things that's so awesome is you are so real. You say the shit that is like the inner monologue. You're not afraid to do that. And then you just have like a magic wand way with words. I just can't get over. And this book is like I dog-eared almost every page. I was like,
Oh
God
my
damn it,
God.
the whole book dog-eared.
I love that. My mom always told me it was like, amoral or immoral to dog ear a book, like that you had to respect. It was disrespectful to do
Right.
that or underline. I'm like, screw that. I love a dog-eared book. That nothing makes me happier than if you dog ear and underline in my book.
I just decided I had that thought too. And I was like, she's telling us, tough titties. I'm living your best life when you're the fucking worst. And I'm like, so I'll be the worst. I'm going to dog ear. I mean, literally, if you're watching this, friends, you can see there's so much dog ear. There was like, where do I even like, maybe I just underline everything and then we go backwards, like reverse engineer. There's so much in this book. I have a ton of like notes and questions, but I think just to start out, maybe to get like, what was the impetus behind this book? And, maybe talk about your tough titties a little bit.
Look, I do wish that there were some sexy origin story, like that moment where I knew I have to write this book. But
Yeah.
honestly, I've been announcing that I'm writing a book over and over since probably 2001 or maybe 2000. I can remember a birthday party in 2003 where I told everyone I was writing a book and other occasions and so many stops and starts and the story has changed over time. Like I think in 2003 the book was going to be about my toxic relationship, which is in the book, with my married salsa instructor that lasted 2.5 years, and I think I was just newly out of it, and it's like
Antonio,
time. What?
Antonio, is that who you're talking about?
Antonio,
Yes.
Antonio, in
Yes.
quotes,
In quote.
not his real name. So I've always really wanted to write a book, and I think that in around like 2019, I think the problem was that I always felt like, well, I don't know how it ends. I don't know how it doesn't arc to anything. I have all these stories of how I'm a mess and how I screw up and how I don't follow the right timelines and how I'm behind in life and so many reminders that I'm behind. I mean, the book starts with the story of going to dinner with my husband Steven's friend and his new girlfriend, who was this, I was rounding 40, and she was this 20 something Condé Nast worker who came to dinner, arrived a little late, fresh from her step class, and her hair, she was twisting her hair up, her wet hair up into a bun because she's fresh out of the shower and her sneakers are sticking out of her toe, and she refuses the bread and then just says, oh, what a day. She's like, it's like every time I walk into the office, I get promoted. I just keep moving up and up and up. Like in a few years, I'm probably going to be publisher. This was her complaint. And I remember thinking, I've never in my life moved up and up and up. I just always felt behind or like I'm moving sideways or down or in a rut. And I have so many stories about that, about procrastinating, sidelining adulthood, being behind as a kid, not fitting in. And it was always like, but where does it end? Like, have I changed at all? And I feel like I was always kind of waiting for some satisfying arc, some change. And then in 2019, felt like I finally hit my groove. It career-wise, I've been happy in my marriage for quite a long time, but I felt like I finally found my thing, my business. I had a very successful year, unprecedented for me, and I hit the $1 million mark, and it was at age 50. And I wrote a piece about it for Business Insider that made a huge splash. And that's when I felt like, okay, now I've really got to write my book. And I also felt like that at that point, I had something to put forward to publishers or to agents. Like, I have this platform now. I've made a splash in media. I have this story that everybody loves. People love the story of me being a late bloomer and really gravitate to it and find hope in it. And so that's when I was able to say, this is my book. I'm writing a
Mm.
book. So that's a long way of saying that's where Tough Titties came from. And the title, I had other working titles for a long time. I didn't know what the book was. And then one day I found myself saying something that I always say, which is Tough Titties, A, because I'm still 12, and B, because it is my natural response to everything that people want me to do, that I'm supposed to do, any expectations. It's just, yeah, you're supposed to do it this way? Well, tough titties. I'm not.
Oh my gosh. You know what I actually love also about this, and you're just describing the arc, the journey, which, you started this idea in 2000, you said 2001, and then 2003, you kind of said out loud. It actually, it goes along with what you were talking about, which is things don't necessarily happen quickly or on anyone's timing. Like from 2001 till now, I mean, if I did the math, I think that's 22
Yeah.
years.
Hmm.
So it just plays into a lot of what you were talking about is like
Yeah.
get, like it takes time. It's you what did you say? You're like the opposite of a go-getter. Like this is for those so many of us who I think try to I'm just going to pick different things that are coming to me that you talk about. You talked about the Gary V, like the whole like 64 pieces of content and like we've got to like,
Oh,
you know, go at it and get it done and crush it. And it's like that's not your MO.
mm,
That's not how you
no,
operate.
not my speed, not my
No.
style. I'm not capable of it. Just thinking about it. Seeing any video of him makes me feel exhausted instantly.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, can you imagine having a camera on you all day? Yeah, we just got 1,000 pieces of content out of this hour.
Right.
No.
Yeah. No, thanks. No, pass the popcorn, please. I would
Yeah.
rather. I one of the things I love so much because I think and I'm just laughing so hard because you also talk a lot about your amazing father who I'm like telling you about your father who was an engineer and then moved into therapy. He became a therapist, psychotherapist, and I was laughing so hard. What did you say? How did you say this? That the just always asking you the nonstop feeling buffet, like he would
Oh,
ask you all the time how you feel, and I was like, oh God, that would make me not want to talk about how I feel. You
oh
know,
yeah. No, he was so obsessed with feelings. I mean, he was an engineer for the airlines, so we traded the perk of free travel, sometimes upgrades to first class, which I was too young to appreciate. But anyway, to we traded that for feelings, just nothing more than feelings all day long. How do you feel about that? Like, how did you feel about the movie? Oh, good. Good isn't a feeling. What did it make you feel? It just drove me crazy. And so I'm not naturally inclined to share my feelings. I don't even know that I'm hiding them. I don't like a friend gave me feedback on the book. She was an early reader. She read the early stuff and she was like, there's just, you, you never, the one thing that's missing from this, like your descriptions are great. It's funny. You tell awesome stories, but you never tell how you're feeling. I'm like, why do I have to? Don't you just know? I mean, there's a chapter in there about food and like my food issues and exercise and weight and all that. And she's like, so why are you telling all these stories about trying to be skinny? What did it like? You don't tell how you felt about it. What did it mean to you? What was the benefit of being skinny? Why was it so urgent? I was like, don't you know? Like, doesn't everyone know that? Isn't it just understood? She's like, no, you don't say what it means to you. And I'm like, oh, crap, fine, I'll put in my feelings. And I think that really changed the book. You do have to, you
Mm,
do have to tell people what you're feeling. If you're like, that's what gives it meaning to them. You can't assume that they understand.
yeah. Well, and I think it's interesting. I actually, and I'm sure other listeners are like this too. I'm actually kind of similar to you, where it's like, I don't know why I would need to say that. Isn't it like, it's like, sometimes I don't even know because I'm like, I'm not sure yet. I just like,
Yeah.
isn't that obvious? Right. And so it's ironic, right? Like what was missing was the
Uh-huh.
feeling, and
Yeah.
you were coached your whole life, most of your life, to have the feelings. I was laughing so hard. Oh my gosh. With his, finding meaning in every word. And I have the tendency to like, what did you really mean with that? There was an example you gave, and it's escaping me right now, but it was so
Is
hilarious.
it the
Like,
word smother?
yeah,
I was
with
like,
mother.
Dad, stop smothering me. Well, the word smother contains mother. So let's discuss. Like, no, let's not. You're smothering
Oh
me.
my God. It's just actually, I feel like smothered, like I can't breathe. So I'm thinking like that.
Right.
That's what it is. Oh my gosh. One of the things I think that's like just the underlying current of this is really that accepting fully who you are, how you're designed. We could get into like the self-help terms of like energetically aligned, which
Uh-huh.
reminds me of your metamorphosis story, which just made me laugh my head off. I was like, oh my God, I am dying just reading about that whole experience as well.
That was
Um,
the self-help, what I cannot call a cult legally, but self-help night near the Midtown Tunnel is the name of the chapter. And it's a
yeah,
self-help group called Spontaneous Metamorphosis. Not its real name, but close.
yeah. I was gonna say, I think a lot of these names were obviously changed, but I was like, I know exactly. I know Est. I know the whole. I was like, oh, I know what she's
Uh-huh.
talking about. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Yeah, I found myself, it's like, and this is like literally, if you're listening, watching, like I'm showing the book right now, you must, even my cat just joined in. She's like, yep, meowing. She wants you must read this. You put words to things that like, I know for me who doesn't always have the words, like you just, even talking about that personal development, I don't even know what to call that, but your Costa Rica, the feedback circle. I was dying. I'm like, what? They're capitalizing on like, it's a little shady. It's a
Oh
little
yeah.
shady what's
Yes.
happening here.
It's all very shady, very manipulative.
Yeah.
Just a total mind game. Like, yeah, seemed benign, but it was pretty evil at its core, I think.
Yeah. And the fact that like I remember you talking about like thinking, oh, I must need this, or somehow this is going to help me or an important. And I just kept coming back to, it's like you just trusting, okay, I'm a late bloomer. I might be quote unquote behind, or, still on my parents' insurance at 26 or whatever. You're haven't gone to Studio 54 yet, like whatever's happening, to just trust that, accept that there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong, right, with
Right.
who you are. And in fact, and it gave me a lot of inspiration and hope. And I think for anyone that's like maybe hasn't gotten their stride and they're in their midlife, or heading into 40s or 50s or even 60s, and reading about your mom, even how she switched gears, like it's just there's so much in this book, but there was so many examples of like, follow your own course. You don't have to
Hmm.
do what others are telling you to do.
Yeah. Yeah, it is about that. It's about following your own course, your own timeline, your own windy path. Some of us are not up and up and up. We're
Yeah.
not, straight hockey stick trajectory. And it's some of us are ups and downs and sideways,
Yeah.
and they have phases that we have to like get out of our system. I am one of those people who I think about whom friends would say, "Oh, it's another one of Laura's phases, another one of her phases." That there's, the dance phase, along with the married boyfriend phase, coinciding, and all kinds of things that I get stuck on and obsessed with, and
Yeah.
detours where other people are just moving through adulthood and hitting the milestones in the right order.
I I think your authenticity, your humor, the permission slip to really just like, what did you say? Permission slip to be your bad self or your like, there's something about that to me. And I'm getting all like feely in this. However, it's like, you know what is this hyper overachieving hustle and grind? Like in the end, what does that really get us other than being exhausted and comparing and feeling like shit? Like
Yeah.
basically, you are showing through your life, you're showing how you can be successful, profitable, but also happy. I have so many, I want to come back to the money piece. I love how you talk about that. Before we do that, we've got to dive into this Deb Fishbone, who, by the way, I know it's not her real name. We're not going to say her real name, but I was like, oh God, I had somebody like that in my life. Like, it's so funny, Laura, because I think anyone that gets to know you now, like I wouldn't have known that story. I would have been like, she was always in the cool group. What are you talking about? And I'm
Ah,
like, what is this green felt hat? What is she talking about? Like what, the social climbing that I appreciated you explaining and sharing about that. It was shocking. It was surprising because I wouldn't have seen that, you know.
y- yeah. I mean, I was a true dyed-in-the-wool card-carrying dork. And on the other hand, I was super cool, not accepted as cool, not perceived as cool, but I was cool because I liked to do things differently as a kid, like when I was 10 or 11, until all this happened. I insisted on like going and finding sneakers that nobody else had. They were not trendy sneakers that nobody else had. They were like, oh, let's search through Fava for something that's weird. And I collected rocks and I collected comic books and I played video games and I wore a green felt hat that I got at camp, the wilderness camp that you have identified in the book. It was meant to, it was felt and waterproof from EMS and it was meant to carry water on a camping trip. And so it was my new thing. I showed up at school in sixth grade after camp with this hat and I was like, this is my new identity. And if anyone asks me about my hat, I will tell them in a pinch it can carry water. I thought that was really cool. So, as you can tell, I was not um, cool, at least on the surface. And I came back from camp and I had a pact with my best friend from fifth grade. We had been inseparable, Deb Yoshalom, that we were going to take Spanish together when we got back from camp and school started. And the first day of school, we're in assembly and we're told if you're taking Spanish, go to the right. If you're taking French, go to the left. And, I went over to the right. I was like, a la derecha, vámonos. Come on, Deb. Let's do this. And I'm like, Deb, I look around and she is nowhere to be seen. And then I spot her over on the left, sitting next to other Deb Fishbone, or as I called her, Mean Deb. And Deb had been patting a seat for her, and she sat down, and they raised their arms in the air, like with their hands clasped, like champions, and yelled, "Yay, French!" And they said, "Boo, Spanish! Spanish is for losers." And so that's when my life became hell, and mean Deb Fishbone stole my best friend and kicked me out of my friend group and made my life a living hell.
Mm,
And just taught me this lesson that I spent the rest of my life trying to unlearn, which is that you must fit in. It is not okay. It's not safe to be yourself.
mm,
And one person disliking you can ruin your life. And that's something that's really important. I think all of us learn that at some point,
yeah.
and it's a lesson that has to be undone. And it's a really tough one because it cuts deep, it scars when
Yeah.
someone who dislikes you has the power to ruin your life, which is true in sixth grade. It's not true later.
Yeah. I appreciate kind of just the piece that you just said. God, I think you talked about what is that type of scar? I don't remember the actual name, but it's like
Keloid.
yeah, yeah. I was like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, that is so true. Well, and what did you say? I've been unpacking this in therapy since. Like I like it's still, and it's funny, I just related. I had a similar thing in seventh grade. Like all the girls I was friends with, I was like, what just happened? They literally were like, you're not in our, it didn't help.
Yeah.
I was also like not on the team in school anymore. I was on like the purple team. They were all on the red team. And I was like, fuck, that sucks. I have like literally no friends I've had my whole life. And they just decided, yeah, Julie's just not going to be part of our group anymore. It was really,
Oh,
it was horrible. I related to that and
yeah.
that safety. And I think in the golden thread a bit of what you're writing about, it's like learning to just, not just, but to be yourself. It is safe. In fact, it can also be, can also lead to
Everything. It's the key to
everything.
everything, especially
Yeah.
if you have your own business, if you are, now
Yep.
in the age of the personal brand,
Yeah.
where um, standing out is the key to success, and fitting in, being the same, which is the goal in
Yeah.
sixth grade or seventh grade, and
Yeah.
the aim of everything is the kiss of death.
Yes, totally. And you then went into the kind of, I always think of it as like this comparisonitis. So it's like the kind of the dichotomy of like, you don't want to be trying too hard. You want to not try and look like you give zero fucks, but like truly, I love how you said it. There's no one who really, you show me someone who's pretending not to care and
Hmm.
you're like, I call them out. And, we can see this in the world today in whether they're influencers or as you call thought leaders, where
Hmm.
it's kind of a cool thing not to care. And it's like, but if you're human, I go back to your dad. I mean, you got to have some feelings about it. Like do you really not care? Curious to your thoughts on that. Cause I really
Yeah.
appreciate it. You wrote about that.
Yeah, I think what I said is I believe zero of the people who claim they give zero fucks.
Yeah.
I
You said it better.
especially if they are advertising it, if they're
Yeah.
making it their thing on social media, well, then you do give a fuck. You
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm saying the word out loud. I'm getting you an E on your podcast episode is that okay, or do you want me to
We knew, I
say
knew
zero
going
Fs?
in, I trusted my intuition. I was like, I love that it says effing here, but I was like,
Mhm.
people, if it offends you, I should have said in the beginning, I'll put a little note, like put on your
Okay,
earphones, earbuds,
great,
but we're
awesome.
going
Then we'll go
full
with fucks.
throttle.
Yes,
Yeah, we're just
full
gonna go for
fuck.
it.
Yeah.
Full,
Uh,
it's
but
so powerful.
I do think I think there's this notion, well, it's always been true. You're cool if you don't care. Not
Yeah,
caring is cool. And so everyone's making a whole lot of effort and caring really hard, trying really hard to show that they don't try and they don't care,
yeah,
and that they are effortless. They're efforting really hard to look effortless. And I
yes,
think it's just all a sham. And I cannot claim that I give zero fucks ever. I give way too much of a fuck about who likes me, how many followers I have, if how this book will do. I care way too much about a lot of things that I would like to give zero fucks about. I'm not going to
yeah.
pretend that I don't.
This is one of the many millions of reasons I just love you and I appreciate what you're saying and your honesty. And I know I'm guessing, I don't want to say everyone, but I'm going to guess almost everyone listening is like, thank God. Thank you for just like saying it out loud because there's something about just being honest about it. Like, it's okay. Like, so I was the one with the poster, Laura, that was, I am okay. You're okay. That's the poster I grew up with. Your dad would have loved
I
it.
know the title.
I'm okay. You're okay. Yeah.
Hmm.
So, it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to care. I think what can be really challenging is when, especially for those that are entrepreneurial, that are in this space, that are seeing others where they're efforting to look effortless and you think
Hmm.
that that's the truth. And then you feel shitty because why is everything I'm doing feel so hard and it looks so easy? And we can just start to really be shitty to ourselves. And
Yeah.
it's kind of like, hey, just you do care and that's okay. Like, be
Yeah.
honest.
Yeah, you're doing a disservice to everyone if you pretend not to
Yeah.
care or you pretend
Yeah.
things are easier than they are. I mean, I'll be the first to tell you that I identify as a lazy person and I try to do things the lazy way and I often do, but I'm not always successful at it. Sometimes I work way too hard at something, way harder than I wanted to or intended to. I make things
Yeah.
harder for myself. I don't I One thing I can honestly claim is that I don't place my self-worth in how
Mm,
hard I work. So I don't feel guilty if I'm not working hard. I feel elated about it and proud of it. And I feel guilty and a little bit ashamed if I'm working too hard. I feel like I'm going against my brand. I'm going against who I am. And I'm out of integrity because I'm working too hard. Um, but I can't
valid.
claim that it's all easy for me and that everything I do is the effortless way to
Yeah.
roll.
How do we help those of us? Oh my gosh, I'm like, I want to retrain my tape in my head. I got like, a lot of the affirmations from trying really hard and teachers seeing that. So I'm like, that whole like, I don't place self-worth in how hard I work. There's a lot of like these overambitious, I know these women because I track them and I'm like,
Yeah.
we are all wanting to know how do we become lazy like you and feel great about that. That's going to be next episode is going to be teach us because that is, I was like, damn, I want that. I want to feel awesome about being lazier. That'd be great.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'll come up with a training, I think, like
Yeah,
how to be
yeah,
lazy. Lazy
you
to the
do.
core.
Lazy to the core. Yeah, with like bad to the bone in the background, and we could like make
Exactly.
totally. Oh my God. Actually, and it reminded me, I was making a note about this. You talked about what you called the post office gene, and you're like, I don't have
Hmm.
the post office gene, and maybe I think it connects with this like go getter and constantly like putting yourself out there, like just honoring that's not how you're wired, and
Right.
seeing so many people who might do that to be successful. You are successful, and what I keep hearing is you can't go against your wiring and the grain of who you are. It doesn't work. And so I thought that was so, I love that post office gene. If you want to share about it for a minute, I
Yeah.
thought that was a great way to talk about it.
Yeah. So, in the early 90s, my best friend Vic was dating this guy who would later go on to be a world famous filmmaker. I think one of the highest paid of all time from his back end box office deals. And
Mm.
he at the time he was a film student and he had made a student film and he was submitting it for festivals and zines, and he would like leave her apartment super early, get up super early in the morning and leave, probably to shtup other women, because that was another thing that he did, but also to get to the post office and mail off VHS tapes of his film to the zines and to the festivals. And we knew he was going to be big because he had what we called the post office gene, where we thought it, both of us, I mean, we connected on this in a big way and still do, thought it was incredible that somebody could actually get themselves to go to the post office. Because I've been a mess, a disaster at mailing anything for my entire life. If I have to mail something out, it will sit on my desk, on the bedside table, anywhere, by the door for days, weeks, months, if I have to take it to the post office. And we just decided together, like he has the post office gene, we do not. And I really do think it's about just not the way I'm wired. And would I love to change that? Like if I could upgrade my system, I don't know, maybe there's a way. I try to accept the way that I'm built and wired and try to overcome it in certain ways. I'm like, doing everything I can to to make this book a success, and I'm doing things that are very much against my nature. Like I've had to go to the post office, but it's just not in me.
It's just not, I was like, thank God with this book, you've got distributors and places that mail it for you because we'd be in trouble
Uh-huh.
if it was coming from you. It wouldn't happen.
Oh my God. If I had to mail things out myself, no, nobody would ever get a copy.
So I'm going to just say thank you to whoever handled this. That was not Laura. Having this book did not came from you, but it didn't come from you.
That's right.
um, a little verbiage for those who are like, what does shtup mean? Do you want to just
Oh,
give
that's
a little?
Yiddish for fuck.
Yeah. So we now
Yeah.
have two versions of the word fuck
Hmm.
today. Um, now it's E plus this
Yes,
version.
exactly. It's EY, explicit
Yeah.
Yiddish.
Yeah. Oh my God. We hit two categories. That's cool. I like it. That's new. Oh my gosh. I want to talk to you a little bit about money and
Mm, my
I want to go
favorite.
into, yeah, okay. I was like, I don't think she's open to all of it. Well, just as I was reading, first of all, you talk about this in the beginning, having some sort of just your life having that aspect of privilege and how you grew up. And then I think about you growing up in New York City on the West Side, going to private schools, being around, friends that are second and third homes in Switzerland. I was laughing my head off. You're like, our cottage house was my grandparents' ranch house that had like geriatric things in there. And
The
um,
commode,
the
crutches,
commode, oh my gosh. I,
nurse's cot,
right, like just, not what you think of when you think of like cottage
country
in
home.
Stamford or Connecticut, right? I was like,
Yeah.
oh, that's so funny. I actually related a lot growing up in the Newton area and outside of Boston. That was like most people had two, three, four, literally at
Oh,
least two
yeah.
homes,
Right.
um, for sure.
Marblehead,
Yeah, Marblehead, the
Martha's
Cape,
Vineyard. Yeah.
yeah,
Hmm.
Martha's
Okay.
Vineyard, all of that. Yeah, Vermont, Maine, all of that.
Hmm.
And I am curious because it seems to me like you actually had a really grounded sense of money. I'd love to hear your how money showed up within your family. But what
Hmm.
I'm really, really, what one of the things I was like, oh, I want to talk about this is your being really upfront about one of the things that you love and desire is to make money, and
Yeah.
you don't apologize for it. And I just think that's freaking awesome. I think, especially as women, like clearly there's not a connection of self-worth around money. There's something like I could sense there's something about your relationship with it that I think a lot of us could really learn from. So I'm just curious. I don't know what it was like, but I would imagine in New York City and growing up around all of that kind of like, I'm just going to go to like the Amalfi Coast for the fifth time. Like you had
All
that
right.
probably all the time. What is your money?
Yeah.
Hey, beautiful you. It's Julie. I'm just pausing for a moment because I want to share in case you don't have this yet. I am going to encourage you to get your hands on my tool set to design your best life. It is free. Here's the copy. And it is pretty darn amazing, if I may say so myself. It is a 25-page guidebook. There are 7 specific practices, one for each day of the week, that are going to help you really to design your best life, to work on your mindset, on your mindfulness practices, designing your day very specifically. I'll show you here. I have a gorgeous tracking system that is all about how you align your values with how you're spending your time. And there's so much more. There's also a little extra free gift in there. I won't tell you what it is, but definitely make sure you get this for you, for your friends, whomever. It is free. Just go to juliereisler.com/toolset to get your copy. And would love to hear, what is your favorite tool out of the 7? Which one did you resonate most with? There is also an audio track in there as well. I've shared one of my quick grounding meditations. So I hope you pick it up. juliereisler.com/toolset. It's free. It's for you. I've used these tools with hundreds of clients and my coaching students, and I use them with myself. So I hope they help you to be your Youest you. All right, back to the show. And tell us more.
Well, growing up in New York was different. The economy was different. So, I'm the daughter of a shrink. He's not a psychiatrist. He couldn't prescribe. He was not paid like a psychiatrist. He was paid like a therapist is. But my dad still did. He made a nice living, and he was really industrious and had a referral service and knew how to promote his business. He was a business guy. He had gone to business school. So he was good at making money. And then we were also comfortable because my mom had money and she came from, where both my parents are Jewish, but my dad is from like, shtetl off the boat Jews and grew up in the Bronx without a lot of money. And my mom was from like blue blood Jew stock who came over centuries before, and they were some of the first Jews to go to Harvard. And I think in the family history, like they had, live-in servants and all that kind of stuff. So, um, not filthy rich, but comfortable. Like she
Yeah,
brought, so we were comfortable as a family,
yeah,
and And real estate was a lot cheaper, so they were able to buy, a classic six on the Upper West Side, and which is now incredible real estate. I grew up not appreciating it as much, but when I switched schools to this more old money private school, I was around incredible wealth, like Upper East Side, Renoir in the TV room wealth. And
Yeah.
but I didn't feel like like we were less fortunate because we lived on the scrappy Upper West Side and didn't have that kind of money. Felt like my parents gave me spending money. I had a bigger allowance than a lot of my classmates who had a lot more money. And so I didn't grow up feeling like we didn't have enough, though I did grow up always wanting to be rich and richer than we were. I wanted
Mm,
I maybe because my dad gave up the privilege to become a shrink, I wanted to fly first class. That was all I wanted in my life and still do. It's like I find coach horrendous, and I found it, I guess, from childhood on, like an insult to my humanity. And so always aspired to make money and be rich. And my dad was really comfortable making money and would encourage me to make money and would try to teach me about the stock market, and which made me float above my body in like a disassociated state. I could not listen to it. I wish I'd gotten good at it. But I've always been, unlike other people in our industry, and many women, I've always been comfortable saying, I want to be rich and doing things for money,
yeah.
not bad things, but working, like everybody says, like, how, don't do anything just for the money. Like sometimes I've done it just for the money. I've taken on clients who are paying just for the money. I love making money and I'm not afraid to talk about it. And other people will like to apologize for it and say, even if they do claim they're comfortable with wealth and that they want to be rich, they will say, because, women do this, because when you have a lot of money, you have more to give away to causes you believe in, and you
Yeah.
become an example of what's possible. And like, why can't we just talk about money the way we talk about spaghetti? Nobody says, like, well, when you have lots of spaghetti, then you have more spaghetti to give away, and you become an example of what's possible for other people who want to have lots of spaghetti. Why can't we just be, why can't we just be normal about it like we are about spaghetti?
Oh, Laura, only you. I'm like, now my brain is like, yeah, money is like spaghetti. Or I've been really obsessed right now. Blueberries are just the thing. And like,
Oh,
I want a lot of blueberries. I mean, what the
they're
heck?
$12. The Driscoll's sweetest batch.
Yeah.
That's like they used to call it limited edition, but then I guess they have it all year round, so they call it
Right.
sweetest batch. And those are $12,
Girl,
and
that's
they're
in New
really
York
good.
City. Yeah, they're yeah.
Citarella.
That's yeah. Although it's like I think 8.99 here. It's not that much
Oh,
better.
oh, send me
Yeah.
some.
Yeah, I'll have to go to the post office, but I'm okay with that. I mean, I'll do. I'll send you some. See, I could share my blueberries, but I love what you're saying. To me, and I know not all men are comfortable saying they want to make money. However, I do feel like there's just a huge difference. I mean, my guy friends, especially that are entrepreneurs, it's like, yeah, of course, I want to make money. That it's
Yeah,
accepted. They say that we don't think anything. It's like, yeah. And then
right.
for some reason, there's this like inner, obviously not for you, which is awesome because I think it's important to just like neutralize it and also get there is zero anything wrong. There's nothing wrong with just wanting to be wealthy.
Yeah.
I'm with you. I love first class. Oh my God, are you kidding? It's way
Fuck yeah.
nicer.
Oh
Yeah.
my God. I mean, you pay a
Yeah.
lot for just for the privilege of being treated like a person rather than
Yeah.
an animal, but it's worth
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. I'm not there at every time it's first class, but like it's happened every now and then. And
Yeah.
every time I'm like, this is so darn amazing. And so I love your comfort with that. It's like we need a course on how to be lazy and how to be cool, loving money and getting that doesn't shift anything about who you are as a person. It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't make you
N-
wrong, to use your personal growth. It's not out of
No,
integrity. It's not like it's
no.
nothing wrong with that. And I know, we have our mutual friend Selena who talks a lot about this as well. Just really owning that there's nothing wrong with that. It's really, I think, also getting that that's part of owning your desires are not wrong or bad. They're just not. They just are.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Especially if one of them is money. There's nothing wrong with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. The thing about you, though, that's the irony, well, not irony, but you are very giving. You are very generous and gracious. You just, my, that's you. So it's not an either or. You can make a lot of money and you can still be who you are and
Yeah.
be that authentic you. And often that is generosity, but it doesn't have to be, I just want to make money so I can give it back. I mean, sure, there's like a little part of me that's like, oh my God, I would love to start a foundation of some kind. Like I would love to do that.
Oh,
That is,
nothing wrong with that. I think that's great. You're just
yeah,
not using it to explain why you want money. I mean, if that's one of the things you want it for, that's awesome. You
yeah,
just don't have to be like, you're not compelled to
yeah,
explain away. Like, I want it because of only because I want to give it away.
yeah,
That's great
exactly.
if you want to give it away or have
Yeah,
a foundation. I love that use of it.
yeah, both. It's both and.
Yeah, both
Yeah,
and.
yeah. We don't have to explain it away. I love this conversation. I really, it's one of the things that I'm just going to keep reiterating to literally everyone. First of all, you got to get this book. It is so funny. It's so real. I mean, honestly, Laura, I think it could be a Netflix show. I feel like it's like Sex in the City-ish. Like it could be its own little film. I'm just going to tell you right now, I want to play your friend Danielle or Vic if you do that. I'm going to try out. I'm like, I want to be one of the play. I want to be someone in here, not Deb Fishbone, please.
No,
Um, but
no, you
I,
get to
I,
be
I'm
Vic. You
yeah.
could be Vic.
Okay. Oh, that's
Yeah,
such a compliment. I liked
it
her. I was like,
is.
yep, I'm late too. You talk about your, let's talk for a minute about that. For those of us, and I don't know if personality assessments, there's so many of them, but I was laughing
Yes.
because I used to do a lot with Myers-Briggs, and that one where it talks about time is usually the people like us that are like, yeah, I don't really want to have a schedule or be anywhere at a certain time. I like to just get there when I'm ready. And you talked about clock dysmorphia. I was like, holy crap. I think I have a magic thing where I can just expand time. And I realized it doesn't take me 15 minutes. It takes me 3 hours to get ready.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah. And so how has that been kind of part of your journey in accepting who you are? Because I just love how you talk about this whole, you're late, like maybe
Yeah.
not as much today, but that's part of you.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I try to be on time and I love to be early if that ever happens. Usually it's because I got the time wrong, and thought I was supposed to be there and like had it wrong on my calendar and then it's an accident. But I've always thought like that in 15 minutes I can shower, like rest, watch something on my iPad, put on makeup, do my hair, get an outfit on, and then get somewhere that's 40 minutes away,
Yeah.
all in 15 minutes. I'm like, no, I guess that I keep finding over and over that that is not true. And it it is something people say that, like, there's one theory that that lateness is a sign of disrespect, that you value your time more than other people's, value their. It's not true. I really don't like to be late, and I don't try to be late, and I'm never late without panicking about it a little
Yeah.
bit. It is just, again, like how I'm wired. And the story you're talking about is where because I was late to meet a friend for lunch, she had gone out, she was a D girl for a film company. And when I got there, this person who was at the front desk said, Oh, you must be Laura. Yeah, Susan went out to buy. She was mad that you were late, so she went out to Bendel's to buy stockings to punish you. Do you want to sit down? Do you want a Diet Coke? I'm Vic, and so I sat down with her. We had a Diet Coke together. We started talking, and by the time Susan came back with her little Bendel's bag of stockings, I was like, Susan who? And Vic and I were best friends, and we had like our first girl date that night. Like we exchanged numbers. I called her. We sat in front of my favorite restaurant at the time, Amsterdam's, on a bench and talked for hours and hours. And it is like I talked in the book about that the unfairness of people showing up late to the airport and getting an upgrade because they were late or getting ushered through TSA because they were late, and it's so unfair. And like I guess meeting Vic was the unfair upgrade of all time. But it was one of those yet another example of where my flaw worked out in my favor.
That's story. Well, you just because you were late, you met her, and she's, I know, been your best friend for years. And I love
Yeah.
that I'm late also. So I don't, it does. I think those of us who have that, it's like you get a pass every time. There's never a worry. Never, personally speaking, I'm always like, oh, no worries. I'm nothing around it because I get
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Just like consider it a disability. So, you know,
Yes.
and then, yeah, work around it for them.
That's right. I have to say, just then we'll move on from the lateness. The thing I've seen, and I'm typically not with clients and work. I really I do my best not to
Yeah.
be. My
Same.
kids, though, if you talk to them, I mean, forget it. They're like, they just know. They're like, actually, they tell me 15 minutes, whatever it is, 15 minutes is earlier. And I think it's actually, I just always want to maximize the time. I feel like I don't, it's like, how much can I get in this?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a little bit of like a binging. Like I just want to,
Yeah.
what can I binge on? Like, can I, sometimes I get a little high off of it. Like I can put my makeup on in 2 minutes and shower and get dressed and like watch the last bit of Queen Charlotte and like make it here on time and like even get to like take a breath and take a snip of smoothie. Like, wow, look at maybe it's like, wow, I did a lot.
Yes, maybe. I love, if I can ever get myself to be early, I do feel that such smugness, and it is a
Yeah.
delight. It's like it's worth doing this more.
Yeah.
I should really try to do this more. I have learned that it is a kindness to yourself to be
Yeah.
early. It's like a treat to yourself, and I wish I were better at giving that to myself. But I do try, and now I have to. I often, when I have a Zoom coming up, a podcast interview, training, whatever it is, I set a timer for 2 minutes before it. Because 5 minutes is dangerous because if the timer goes off, I'm like, well, I still have time to write an email. No, I
Yep.
don't. And then I miss it, and then I look up and it's like 2 minutes past and I'm late. And 2 minutes on Zoom, like a podcast interview, is like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
2 minutes late, it's like, oh, wow, I guess she's not showing up. So
Yeah.
I have to set a
Yeah.
timer for like 2 minutes before it, sometimes 5 minutes before and 2 minutes before, so
Oh my
that I
God.
can be a little early.
I love it. This is so helpful for somebody who's in recovery with
Yeah.
with lateness, especially with picking up my kiddos. Like I'm like, yeah, this is going to be part of the laziness, the whole training. Laura, I can see it. Yeah,
Yeah.
ways the kindness to yourself. I love that aspect. Um, I am curious with this book that is just launching. What is your greater lazy-esque vision? Like,
hmm
what is your vision for this book? How do you hope for it to make an impact? What would be your, I don't know, dream feels very, very touchy-feely, but
No, yeah. No, I
vision,
have dreams for it. I mean, my like pipe dream for it, not that it's un not doable, but it's unlikely for any author, is
yeah,
that it makes the New York Times bestseller list. Uh,
yeah,
maybe it gets in Reese's hands, although Reese is mostly fiction, but maybe it gets in her hands and she puts it on the list and then it goes everywhere. I want it to be everywhere. I want people to come up to me all the time and say, "Oh my gosh, your book changed my life." I mean, it is
Yeah.
very ego driven, this fantasy. It's like I I want it to entertain people. I want it to make them laugh. And I want it to maybe help them, those who need it for that. But I want to hear about it too. I want that reflected back to me because it makes me feel good and important and like it was worth writing. It's already been worth writing, and I've already had people say, like,
Wow.
just reading the intro shifted my whole belief about myself. Like, wow, really? Because I didn't write it for that, but now that it's out there, I want it to do that.
Mm, really, really powerful. Yeah, I gotta say, I have like a strict bedtime these days because we could go into this other conversation around hormones changing, menopause,
Oh
that whole thing.
God, yeah,
We will do another one on seriously, like that
yeah.
is a whole because I follow, I'm always like, what's she doing? What is she taking? What's helping her? Because you were sharing on social media about like the gummies, the like, I'm like, oh,
Cannabis gummies, yeah.
yeah. Whoo, I'm like, so I have a set to bedtime and I stayed up 2 hours. I could not put this book down. I literally was like, I had like oh my God, I have this routine. I put pig lard on my face. That's a whole other convo. Instead of Botox, I use pig lard and yeah, it works well. With my glasses, they're falling off because I have
Oh
so
my
much
God.
grease on my face. I'm like, can't see because I'm like laughing and crying. I'm earmarking every page and I'm like, this is a fucking good book. This book, I'm just gonna say, like, you can't put this down. So that's my endorsement. Maybe I'll add a thing
Well,
about the pig lard. It's just so good.
right. So you just made my dream come true because that's my dream for the book, for people to say I couldn't put it down and
Yeah.
to have like pig lard all over their face and their glasses falling off and be all entirely greasy and past their bedtimes and say I couldn't put this down.
It's exactly that's the truth, Laura. And it was worth the hormonal shift. Let me tell you something. I did fall asleep right away. I think I was laughing so hard. And I like literally, it was so funny. I woke up and I was like, oh my God, it looked like there was a party in here. Like what happened? Like we
A
raged
pig
last
lard
night.
party.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Me and the tough titties, we rage. But seriously, you cannot put it down. It is so delicious and joyful to read. And I just appreciate you, just truth teller, saying what's so like, even just saying, yeah, I want it to be a New York Times bestseller. Who gives a crap if it's your ego or not? You wanna know that it's helping people. And it's refreshing and I'm so grateful. I remember talking to you about this, and you're like, "I'm writing a book," and you showed me the title. You showed me the
The
cover.
cover image. I remember that.
Yeah, and the T-shirts and the bags. I don't know if you have those. I will totally get
Hmm.
one when those are out.
Yeah. I have a Redbubble store.
Okay, just scared about you
Hmm.
mailing anything, but that we'll
Yeah,
talk about
no,
that
I
later.
don't have to mail it. That's why I use the store.
All right, so we'll have all the links.
Yeah.
I just thank you for taking 22 years to write this book, to put your heart, soul, your feelings into the book. I know your dad would be super proud and
Thank you.
just appreciate you. And I know for everyone listening in, this idea of being your Youest you, it's the same. It's all connected to what you're saying. That Youest you thing, which I know is a little cheesy, but it's so powerful because it really is like it's individuated. We all have that specific calling and wiring, and it's like just freaking obey that. Listen to yourself, and you're never late. Like because if you're late, you could meet your best friend, like you did.
Hmm. That's true. Here's to
Yeah.
being you, even if you are late.
That's right. Here's to being you, even if you are late, and just realizing it's all happening in exactly the way it's supposed to. Yeah.
I love that. Thank you.
Thank you for being your late, lazy self, Laura.
Thank you. Thank you for being similar.
I know. And she wasn't late, by the way, everyone. I was like 2 minutes
No,
late to this. That's
that's
so
true.
funny. Yeah, I was in the bathroom, but it was worth it. So now we're going into territory where I'm going to just say we're going
Uh,
to end this
yep,
convo.
yep.
Um,
Two
you were
G's talking
awesome.
about poo. Hmm.
I know good proofs are worth it. We got to
Slippery
honor them.
slope. Hmm.
Yeah. I will end by saying I have these prayers of gratitude when it's like just the most beautiful number two. And I was like, darn, I'm so thankful. Like you look the way Dr. Oz talked about them. And I was like, it was worth being 2 minutes late. It just had to come then.
It's
So it went.
it's worth it. It's worth it. Of course, it was two.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Oh my gosh. You're a rock star. And I'll just say, may this be a New York Times bestseller, of film, and whatever else Tough Titties wants to see happen in the world. I'm a supporter of you and everything you're doing.
Thank you so much. From you and your greasy pig lard lips to God's ear.
Oh my gosh. All right, USG listeners, seriously, get to an online bookstore or a regular bookstore. We'll have all the links. You've got to get Tough Titties.
Yes.
You don't have to put pig lard on your face. That's not a prerequisite, but you won't be able
Okay.
to you won't be able to put it down. It is really that good. And
Thank you.
yeah, let us know. Let Laura know what you think. She'd love to know.
Yes, please do. And you can find it at toughtittiesbook.com. Make it easy. All your booksellers are there. So you don't even have to Google it. Toughtittiesbook.com is the place to find it. And bonuses too.
Ooh, we love our bonuses. All right.
Yeah.
Toughtitties.com, book.com, toughtittiesbook.com.
Toughtittiesbook.com.
Amazing. Yeah. I definitely go for the bonuses as well as the book. And thank you. Thank you. Thank you for being you.
Thank you, Julie.